It's fall. It is still fall. We are loving fall, and we're gonna make pumpkin cheesecake muffins because it's like the convergence of everything you want. Cheesecake, muffin, pumpkin, and that's what we're gonna put together. So to start, there's kind of 3 components, and I always start with the streusel topping. Everything is better with a streusel topping. So we have some whole wheat flour. Yes, it's a little bit different than regular, but it adds a heartiness, a nuttiness. I just like it. Brown sugar, a few oats, and then some cinnamon. That's really all it is. And I'm just gonna mix that up just to kind of combine that. It's the dry ingredients of a streusel, which really this is kind of the base of a lot of streusels. The only difference is that whole wheat flour. And I just like to do the whole wheat because it's kind of fun to switch things up a little bit, and it adds a little bit more texture to it too. So I'm using some roasted pecans here. I like roasted already because then it just brings out more of their flavor. And even though they are gonna bake again, they're gonna be coated in that butter and flour mixture. So to really make sure that they roast well, it's nice to roast them before. You can use any nut here. I think originally in this recipe, I had done pumpkin seeds or pepitas. And those are good too, but sometimes I'm gonna admit, pecans are just, they're classic for fall. So we're gonna throw those into the streusel. And then we're gonna just mix that up. And then what you really need to do with any streusel is what? You need to cut in some butter. Why do we call it cutting in? Because originally, traditionally, they would have actually used a pastry cutter. You've seen those. And I use one for years, and every so often I still will use it. But honestly, for this, I think the easiest thing is just to use your hands. Sometimes kind of like pie dough, and I just kind of work it through, push those together. And for this, you kind of want it pretty well mixed, just because you want it to really then adhere to the top of them. So I'm gonna keep mixing this with my hands and then show you the finished product. So I have this all mixed up. You can see that that butter is in smaller pieces. It's really, it can hold together, but that's just a beautiful streusel topping, and it smells delicious. So we're gonna set that aside. And then for the next component is that cream cheese. So I always used to say these were pumpkin cream cheese filled muffins. Well, that can be kind of confusing because sometimes cream cheese as a filling, as in just like in the center of a muffin or something, doesn't work the best. So instead I swirl it together. But for the cream cheese, I made sure to have it at room temperature. Look at that, it just pushes, that's exactly what you want. That means it's gonna mix together so much easier. And then guess what? We can mix it all by hand. And that is just so much better. Why have to get out mixers if you don't have to? So a little bit of sugar, because yeah. And as you mix the sugar in with something like a cream cheese, it really becomes almost more of a liquid. So it helps it work out and get easier to mix. And it also is almost like an abrasive, so it helps the texture of that cream cheese too. So we have that mixed in there, and then all we need to do is mix in an egg. And just one. And the reason is, it helps it then actually work in with the muffins better. And I like to whisk that in together. Just kind of break up that egg, mix it in with the cream cheese. And at first it's gonna look a little bit broken, a little bit maybe gross, cheese curdly, but then you're just gonna keep mixing. And it kind of comes together. Without the egg, the cream cheese would just sink in that muffin and it wouldn't work together well at all. So you really need those two. Done. See, this is pretty simple. Even though there's 3 components, it's not hard. That's what I love. So now for the main attraction. And that's gonna start with pumpkin. We love pumpkin. And guys, I'm gonna be honest, I'm hearing that there is a shortage of pumpkin. I mean, I know if this year couldn't get worse, then now to say pumpkin. So you know what I've been doing? I actually bought a number 10 can, they're called. It has like 12 cups of pumpkin in it. It's like what a bakery or a big kitchen would use. And oftentimes at grocery stores, you can ask for them if they don't have them. And you can just separate them and freeze it. It's good. So pumpkin, some oil. We often always put oil with pumpkin just because the moisture factor works better. I'm gonna use the same whisk because you can do that and there's hardly any cream cheese on it. I'm mixing those two together just to get them somewhat mixed up. And then I'm gonna add a little bit of brown sugar. If I'm baking, brown sugar does not always work, but if I can, I like to use brown sugar because it adds more of those caramely notes, kind of that more fall feeling, a little bit deeper flavor, which is kind of nice. So we're mixing that in, and then this is kind of our base. And this is the base to a lot of pumpkin dishes. We're gonna add some eggs, just 2 eggs. And then I'm gonna mix those in. What I love about any pumpkin dishes, let's be honest, like I think we can be real here. Pumpkin as itself, it doesn't necessarily have a ton of flavor. It kind of has a sweetness to it, maybe a little bit of a, I don't know, vegetal flavor. But really what makes this, I think we can all agree, it's the spices, you guys. And that's what makes anything instantly seem pumpkin-y or autumn-like. It's those delicious spices. So to that, I'm gonna add a little bit of vanilla. Oh, I don't ever wanna forget the vanilla. There's just something about vanilla in a baked good. It's not that I want it to be a dominant flavor, but I want it to be there just so you notice it slightly. Mix that in. Now we can move on to our dry ingredients. Pretty simple. So I have some regular all-purpose flour. Always just, if you're gonna use it like this, drop it in with something, overfill it, and sweep it off. That way you're not putting in too much flour, which could make your items a little bit drier, not as good. Then a little bit of whole wheat flour. I always keep my whole wheat flour in the freezer because since it is the whole grain wheat, it has more oils in it that can go rancid and taste bad, so you wanna keep it in the freezer. So the hardiness of that whole wheat flour, it would bring the texture down if we did all whole wheat, make them kind of heavy, dense, not good. But mixing it with all-purpose flour helps it have a better texture, and I love that. So the spices, we talked about them once, we need a little bit more. So it's some cinnamon, because that's what makes it delicious. A little bit of ground ginger. It's a lot of times what's gonna go into your pumpkin pie too. And that's because we have these same things that we're used to with pumpkin, and that's what instantly makes your brain say, pumpkin, and I love that. A little bit of salt. Anything baked gets salt. That's just kind of how it is, and that's what works well. So we have 2 leaveners, we have some baking powder, and then a little bit of baking soda. And then the one spice that's left is nutmeg. Now, I always use these whole nutmegs just because nutmeg goes bad really easily. And what did I forget? I forgot my rasp grater. I'll be right back. Okay, got the grater. A whole nutmeg is just better because it doesn't go bad as quickly. Ground nutmeg in your pantry, it will lose its flavor pretty quickly. And I know some people are adverse to nutmeg. Leave it out if you don't like it, but it's just a little bit, and it instantly just kind of ups everything. And before I forget, which I usually put this in with the wet ingredients, but a little bit of molasses. This again just ups that flavor. It has kind of that brown sugar flavor in you, but you want a little bit more. Again, it's that warming fall, just what you want in the fall. So I'm gonna stir this a little bit. I'm gonna start mixing it together. This is what I love about, it's kind of like a dump cake, which it's those good snack cakes. They're like a 1-bowl recipe. Obviously this is more than 1 bowl, but you can see with how quickly it goes together. Look at that. I would rather have a few pieces of flour and dry bits in there remain than have it overmixed and then it could get tough and dry. Have it mixed together. I have all my 3 components I need. Before I finish up and put them into the muffin tin, I'm gonna clean up so we have some easy space to work. And spraying the pan just because, you know, added interest, and I don't want to put liners with it. Sometimes they're just annoying to work with. So why? So cheesecake, this mixture of the pumpkin actual muffin, which as you can see is not overmixed, and do not let that scare you. This is better. So instead of filling these, letting it sink to the bottom, not working in as well, what I'm doing could scare some of you. I'm putting this cheesecake mixture into the pumpkin mixture. We're gonna do a few folds. And as you can see, it's kind of weird. I'm just gonna go from the center, go over and bring some of that pumpkin-y goodness in, folding it, cutting it, folding it. And look, I know this seems kind of, let's call it unorthodox, because it is. I'm not completely mixing it. And I think that's the key here. We did some good folds, and now what I'm just gonna do is fill it. So they're swirled together. You don't have to worry about where's the cheesecake layer, where's the pumpkin layer. you can just go through now and fill them up. And as you can see, I'm using, why do we call these ice cream scoops? I'm gonna guess hardly any of you, like me, ever use these for ice cream. No, we use them for cookies. We use them for muffins because they are so simple. And they evenly portion everything, which I don't know about you, but I like that. We're filling all these up. So once I get all these filled up, what am I gonna do? Well, then we worry about the streusel topping. Now, guys, there's gonna be a big difference between me and a lot of times what you watch. I am not gonna leave this in the bowl. This is one muffin. Look at that. I don't understand when I see so much stuff left in a bowl. And yes, I hear my grandma in my ear. I hear my mom in my ear. My mom will literally take the eggshell when I get done cracking an egg and be like, Caleb, there is still some white in there. So, you know what? It's in me, I can't help it. And as you can see, it gives you perfect amount. Guys, this is when I love a recipe. When I make a recipe that does this, I'm like, thank you. So, streusel topping, hello, this is what we want. And this is what we want a lot of, if you ask me. I'm just crumbling it on top. Now, at first, you're gonna kind of not know exactly how much. So we may have to, at the end, figure out if we have a little bit left and kind of push some onto others. But I'm gonna go through it first, be pretty generous, because that's what I want. And then we'll pop them into the oven. So I have it all on there. Pretty much it worked out perfectly, which I did not plan. But as you can see, what I'm doing is just pushing some of that streusel that's on the edges. It doesn't matter, but I'm gonna be honest, I'm picky and I don't like it to burn as they're baking. For one, that just makes the pan look ugly, and I like my pans always to look good. So it's all on there. It's beautiful. We're gonna bake it. I'm excited for muffins. Muffins are a cozy, homey thing. We're gonna pop it in the oven, and then we're gonna have a muffin time, guys. We're doing it. So these baked about 25 minutes. It's not that long, and it smells amazing, which is my fave. So I need to let them cool because, guys, they would burn you, they would hurt you, they would do all that. Then we will just take them out. I'll probably eat one when it's still too hot, but I want to show you the center of them because look how beautiful these are. Some of the streusel that got down to the pan, I'll probably just be picking off and eating, but okay, a few minutes. Then probably like 5 to 10 minutes. Should be like 15 to 20, but you get the idea. These cooled in the pan, probably about 10 minutes. We do that because they're too soft and they're too still hot from the oven. So if you would just take them out, they could kind of fall apart or sink. Once they were done in the pan, I put them onto a rack. And again, the rack helps too. It circulates air all around it and makes so the bottoms don't get soggy, but they dry out. But guys, look at these. They're beautiful. They're so fallish, so we have to open one up because, guys, and okay, this is what I love to see. Do you see how there are ribbons or little pockets of cream cheese filling kind of throughout, as opposed to one big glob that either sinks to the top or the bottom? This is so much better. And then this way you can just, it's still warm, which, whatever. Okay. It's like the best pumpkin bread you have, but then turned up a bit because it has a streusel topping. So like you get that crunchy, nutty, cinnamony texture. You can get little hints of that like tangy cream cheese. They're not too sweet. They're like just the right amount of sweetness and then offset with all the other flavors and textures. Guys, this is good. And I want you to make it. I want you to tell me what you think. I want you to share it around. It's an easy recipe. It goes together pretty quick. Check on the website, because guess what? I have a website, wiseguide.com. The recipe is on there. You can print it off. It's so easy. And there's other recipes there too. So just hang out, check around for a while. Share it around, let me know. Keep baking, because it's fall and we need to enjoy it.